There once was a man. He had everything he wanted, whenever he wanted it. There was nothing that was too far away from him. There was nothing that was too expensive for him to have in his possession. He was able to satisfy every desire he had. He lived in a culture where he was told that it was virtuous to please himself and do what he wanted to do. Like I said, whenever he wanted. It was praised. And pride was the highest virtue. It was the thing. If you're proud in who you are, that means you've completed your life. That is your main purpose, is that you're here to please yourself and be proud of it. This man, he became so self-centered and so focused on no one else but himself that he lost himself, and he knew in his heart he could not be satisfied by feeding his desires and his lowest whims. Everything around him was telling him to do so. He listened to the culture, he listened to what he was taught by the culture, and he ended his life. He took his own life by himself in his home alone. And this is the reality of, maybe you're going through this right now. I know I have. I'm wrestling with it every day because it's taught to us to be hedonistic, to be focused on our pleasure and on ourselves, and not on other people, not on sacrifice, but on pleasing our own desires. It's a very dark place, but there is a hope and there is a light, and I'll tell you about one man. This one man, he grew up in a place where he was taught that he was born to serve. He was alive to be helpful, to spend his time providing value in all the different ways that you can provide value to others, and that he was to discipline himself to the highest good, the highest virtues. He would sacrifice himself on a daily basis in his time, in his deeds, in his word, in his finances, and everything. He would sacrifice himself and give his life as a sacrifice to those around him, his community. He found company, he found fulfillment, he found joy, he found a sense of peace and a purpose in this self-sacrifice, even though he was choosing to deny his whim to be lazy, to be gluttonous, to be selfish and self-centered with his time, his money, his energy, his action and words, all of those things. He chose to sacrifice those things. And all those desires I've just mentioned were put in their proper place, in their order. As I said, the man found great fulfillment and great joy in doing so, even though it's hard and painful. There was purpose in it all. This man was following the example of Jesus Christ, what he did for the world and humanity, which was sacrifice himself, put himself last and those around him and everyone first. And that is a message we need to hear, you need to hear, and we need to apply it into our lives, because the first story that I've communicated to you today was talking about the current situation that we're in as a world. We're told to follow our heart, to do what you want, and that if there's any restrictions, then it's oppression. That's the main push that we're told by this culture that we live in. And that is not the case. We need guidelines, we need rules and boundaries to stop us, because otherwise we are just going to be rampant, self-centered, hedonistic pigs, like just animals. Because that's the mindset that the liberal left kind of have. A lot of them do, is that we're just here just to pleasure ourselves, and that's the highest virtue. If you can do that with a loud smile on your face, a loud smile, just a big smile on your face, and a loud shout of, yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm this, I'm that. It's like, no, that's not the highest virtue. The highest virtue is self-sacrifice and love, sacrificial love, agape love. That is the highest virtue. And we need to come back to that. And your culture has lied to you. Your culture has indoctrinated you with this message from a young age. And they paint it in this way. Like I said, it's the highest virtue, it's heroic, but really it's the opposite of that. And this teaching, this message, this idea of follow your heart, do what you want, it is a lie. And it's going to lead you to a place of suicide, of despair, of resentment, of just depression. And life is going to be meaningless. It really will. And I've lived it. I've lived that life. I've lived that life of thinking that that was the way to go, of just pleasing yourself. We must dedicate ourselves to self-sacrifice. And that's where we're going to find the most fulfillment, the most joy, the most purpose as men. Yeah, guys, let's lock in, let's give ourselves to self-sacrifice. Let's give ourselves to God as sacrifices, just as Jesus gave himself for us. We must give ourselves to him. And that extrapolates to others. We're here to serve others, to die for others. Today, start with one self-sacrificial act. It could be the smallest thing. I mean, just opening a door for someone, maybe standing up for someone, working more than you normally would. And you watching this in some sense because you've chosen to click on a title, pardon me, that is about self-sacrifice. You could have chose to watch 10 Easy Ways to Do This, or Sidemen going on a holiday. You could have watched Fortnite. You could have watched Kai Cenat. You could have watched I Showed Speed, these overstimulating entertainers. But you've chose to watch something that is about self-sacrifice. And that's a sacrifice in itself. Studying, working, you're sacrificing yourself. You're giving your time, your effort and your energy to something that will bring in a reward. Not an immediate reward, well, somewhat immediate, but it's a delayed gratification. Do one thing today. Give yourself to sacrifice. God bless your souls.